are live on YouTube. We're going to be going over a little bit more on not only the books that I enjoy, but the books that I've actually bought. Okay, so we're just going to be going down. This is obviously just a complete overview. 494 books, just ordered a couple more. Digital Minimalism, which just came out. I'm super excited about that. Just want to make sure that everything is good with my voice. So if you guys have any questions, obviously leave in the comments below. I can see the live chat over here. So we've already talked about power principles, which essentially means that you have to understand that power is something that if you are of influence, you have two ways of actually influencing. Number one is actually being in the position of power, and number two is actually influencing the way that you should, which is naturally, okay? So position of power means that you are top-down, authoritatively just giving advice, or actually telling people what to do, and then you have people on the other side which are actual leaders, and essentially this is what they, Jeb Blunt goes over. Highly recommend this. Fanatical Prospecting, also wrote an excellent book. He's a real true sales guy. $1 Million Real Estate Agent, already went over that last time. Don't remember this. Definitive Book of Body Language. I think I actually went over these, so let's continue on. Thank You for Smoking, already went over this. People by You, Power Agent, really good. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. This is probably one of the best books that I've actually unbroken. Incredible. I actually went over most of these. The Slight Edge. This is actually the first time that I actually started looking at that you have an opportunity to continuously get better, okay? And continuously get better, in other words, you look at yourself, you look at where you want to go, and that gap, if it's wide, you don't even start sometimes. But if you're like, okay, I'm 100 or 10 pounds overweight, that's not bad. You look at that gap and you're saying, okay, I can do this. But if the gap is 25, 30 pounds, you don't even start. And essentially in the Slight Edge, it says, number one is, you're not gonna have the quantum leaps that you see on TV. You're not gonna have, when you see someone on the front page of a newspaper and they say, I lost 150 pounds. It's like, how did you lose 150 pounds or 200 pounds? Obviously, that's a really good headline, but the problem is what they're showing is the end result. They're not actually showing the 1.5 or 2 years it took to get to that, which was the challenge, the eating habits, the nutrition, the sleep, the ability to actually go to the gym when you don't want to go to the gym. That's all part of the Slight Edge. Highly recommend you check this out. Multiple times I went through that. I'm Awesome, not a good book. This is actually a great book. New Easy Day. I think I actually went through all of these. So continuing on, The Art of Selling Real Estate. This was all right. You know, there's really no good real estate book out there. Obviously, I'm in real estate. I really want to make a sales, or not really a sales book, but a real estate book that essentially just goes over what you actually need to do instead of people that are not practitioners. The people that are not practitioners write these books. Like, she's actually in real estate and she does high-end real estate, so it's good. You got to kind of get a good, you know, mix of things from Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, and then obviously Patricia Cliff. I think she's actually in New York City. New Sales Simplified. It's all right. Book Yourself Solid is actually one of the best referral books that I've ever read in my life, okay? So this changed my entire outlook. This was obviously 2013 when I first ordered this, and I didn't understand that you can actually book yourself solid through referrals. I always thought it was through prospecting. I always through his marketing and advertising. But essentially what he says is that you're always reaching out, you're always giving value, you're writing notes, you're continuously following up. You need to have a system where you say, okay, I reached out to customer A in January, I need to reach back out to customer A in June, or September, or December. And then he essentially puts a system on it where 4 times a year, and then you mix it up, whether it's a call, it's a text, it's an email, now it's no cards, advertising, things like that. So highly recommend Book Yourself Solid. There should be a follow-up book because obviously this is 2013, pre all social media. And before I go on from there, I would say the first thing is there's a lot of people, I thought I went over all these books. Yeah, let's just keep on going. There we go. All right, so okay, success principles. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that a lot of people, especially, you have two types of ways of getting business, okay? The first way is obviously through sales, which is calling and being proactive, okay? Reaching out proactively, following up. And then the reactive sales, which is super easy, you're not really putting yourself on the line, which is, I'm gonna advertise to them, I'm gonna market to them, I'm gonna target them on social media, I'm gonna put out valuable content online. But the thing is, if you just have that and you don't have, hey listen, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell this year? Or you go to the closing table, you say, on average, I received 2 to 3 referrals. Is there anyone that you have in mind right now that's actually looking to buy or sell their home this year? I would love to be in touch with them. If you're not having that conversation, that proactive conversation, you're not really in sales, okay? You're really just in marketing or advertising because you're not proactively actually reaching out to them. This is something that I've struggled over the years, is that, you know, I grew up as that nice guy that I felt like I was bothering them, so I started putting in that valuable content. But then if I have no one actually watching that valuable content, I'm not actually in sales, I'm not actually getting referrals, I'm not actually getting business. So if you're putting out the valuable content and you're advertising to them, but you're not actually calling and following up, they don't know. And by the way, this is the biggest kicker, is someone else is. Someone else will, okay? I've had a lot of clients work with other people where I'm like, why are you working with other people? Well, maybe the biggest reason is because they followed up and you didn't. Success principles completely flipped my script. Right after this, I actually went to, I couldn't even afford it at the time. I went to Jack Canfield in Arizona, and it was a week-long, right around a week-long presentation about visualization, affirmations, which is good, but one of the biggest things that he sort of doesn't talk about, that Tony Robbins talks about, is the amount of action that you need to take, okay? So Jack Canfield really talks about visualizing, and I think what really wrapped it up this year is that if you take the visualization, you take the law of attraction, and then you take the action, and as David Goggins talks about, he talks about visualize what could go wrong and how you're gonna handle it, okay? I made a video today about that. I'm gonna be posting that probably tomorrow, and essentially what he's saying is, yeah, that's great. Visualize the success of winning a race or prospecting or approaching that pretty girl or acing the test or getting into college or whatever it is for you, but also visualize when a friend asks you to go out and get drinks while you want to study or get into a school, what are you going to say? How are you going to handle that conversation? So if you visualize and you affirm that, obviously this is more about also, I think it's a very thick book, probably 400 pages, 300 pages. I've read through it twice. The second one was more browsing, going through chapter to chapter, which is very short chapters. Highly recommend you check that out. Aspire. If I don't remember it, it's not good. I actually, you know what it was? From here, I then started moving into a couple of more mindset books, as you'll see. And Aspire essentially means the power of the words that you say to yourself. So essentially, you have to change not only how you talk to yourself, but you kind of do a 30,000-foot overview of, in this conversation, how was I? How was I actually responding? Whether to what they were saying or what you were actually saying. Highly recommend you keep track of that. You know, you leave an interaction or you get off the call or a text or you're walking around day to day. What are you saying to yourself? Obviously, that's more psycho-cybernetics. And you know what to say when you talk to yourself. Those are two great books, which we'll get into. The Daily Reader, very good as well, which is right here. John Maxwell, very well known. Essentially, very well known author. Essentially, what he talks about is 365 days. Each one is about a page or two. It's like the Daily Stoic. You read it, you visualize it, you internalize it. It's a great way to start your day. Highly recommend it. America Beautiful, didn't really get over that. Affirmations, I don't remember this enough to actually comment on it, but you could see that I was dialing really deep into how I was talking to myself because I was incorrectly talking to myself, which then obviously manifests itself outwards. On top of that, I just want to make sure that we're good to go. And yeah, all right. There's people watching. I didn't know if it actually was going through. So this was the time that I actually started understanding that I was not only talking to myself incorrectly, but I was also just not Not understanding how that would work, okay? In other words, why it matters, you know, and that's when I started saying, okay, this matters, I need to get this handled. The Go-Giver, highly recommend this. Obviously, again, Bob Burg, very well-known author, highly recommend you check this out. This is a parable, or a fable, I should say, and essentially he goes over, I think, 4 to 5 ways of giving value, and at the time, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had to give value. I didn't know that that's how you actually, I don't know, transform, get more business, things like that. So this book kind of changed my mind. And especially now, I'll just give you this story. This one girl posted on Instagram. She's a single girl, and she was posting, and she's like, well, you know, on Valentine's Day, you know, I want to love myself. Do you really want that as your main attitude on Valentine's Day? I know you're single and you know you want a boyfriend, but is that really the main thing about Valentine's Day? Or is it about unconditional love or conditional love, however you want to look at it? And by the way, there is a difference. Conditional love, you're saying, I love this person if they are the way that I want them to be. And then unconditional love is regardless of the way they are. It's really hard to be unconditionally loving, by the way. So, but she talked about, you know, I want to love myself and things like that. And it's very I and me type of thinking. And I started really contemplating that. And I'm saying, is that why she's single? You know, like nobody wants to get into a relationship where it's very selfish, it's one-sided, it's all about me, me, me. And the Go-Giver is a great way, especially in business, to actually say, okay, it's not about you. That's why they're hiring you. And Jeff Bezos has, you know, regardless of what you think of the guy, he's literally taken this on and said, you know what? Well, this is why we're successful. Is it's all about the client. The hidden agenda. Don't remember that. Snap selling. This is actually a good book. I don't recommend everything in here, but essentially you have Snap is actually an acronym, and I forgot actually what the acronym was, but essentially there's a method to actually selling. And once you actually systematize selling, it makes it a lot easier and you can actually be more present in the sales. So in other words, the first one is you have to reach out to a customer. You have to actually they have to know that you have something that they want to buy. Okay, because you could have this whole thing. Here's the best examples that, you know, I saw someone post on Facebook and they said, I just started this new company. And now that was the only post. And then people from there, they feel just because they started and they hung a shingle outside their office that people are just going to rush and do business with them. So they posted it out and that was it. Okay, I haven't heard from them. It's probably going to collapse. And the reason being is that you need to reach out to customers to say, we're here to handle your needs. Okay, so the first one is prospecting, getting in front of the customer. The second one is, and that could be through email, text, whatever the case is, you know, any kind of form of communication. Then you actually have to be in front of the customer so you understand their needs, wants, and desires, and then you can show that what your product or service is, you can actually handle their solution. Or, I'm sorry, you can handle their problem. You have a solution for their problems. And then obviously that moves into the close. If you don't understand that you're just going to try and close on the phone call, you're not going to sell a lot. If you feel that you're going to try and pitch your idea over the phone, that's not going to work. You actually have to schedule an appointment. Obviously, each sale is completely different, but you have to understand there's a system to actually selling. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but there will be a process where the customer has to know you're available, has to know that you know what they want and desire, and then the close comes. Lean on the pen. Place your order, you know, order here, whatever it is, purchase now. So, Richest Man in Babylon, I know this is one of the best selling books. I didn't get much out of it. Here's another guy, you know, Tell Me No, I Dare You, which essentially, you know, this is another guy that I feel like a lot of authors, they write books, but they don't actually live by it, okay? I'll give you a great example is there's an incredible book out there. I forgot his name. Cal Newport. Cal Newport just came out with Digital Minimalism, which I actually just ordered. It was the first time that 12 Rules of Life and David Goggins and Atomic Habits I actually ordered at full price. But usually I wait until it comes on audiobook, or I wait until the price comes down because I don't want to spend $15 for every single book that I actually order. But Digital Minimalism is an incredible book. It's an incredible author that has a very good track record. And essentially, I'll bring this up. I have it right over here. I don't know if it's going to show up on your screen. But yeah, so Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport right here. And he goes over just why you need to look at your, like how you do life based on the amount of screens that are in front of you. So this is obviously Brian Johnson's masterclass and whatnot. So highly recommend you check that out. I just ordered that, so I'll tell you obviously how that is. Again, I dare you. So this was going over fears that essentially I didn't know I had. I didn't know that you can overcome fears, that there's a process to overcoming fears. That also has to do with Eat That Frog. Highly recommend you check this out. Obviously, this was followed up by, what's his name, who had the One Thing by Gary Keller. And both of the books pretty much say that this book actually, it's monumental how it actually changed my life, because he talks about, imagine that what you don't want to do is a frog, and what you really, really don't want to do is the ugliest frog there is. And if you eat the ugliest frog, every other frog, which is a task or a project that you want to do, it's really not that challenging. Because you ate the ugliest, grossest, disgusting frog, which was that thing that you don't want to do, which is either going to the gym, eating healthy, making prospecting calls, or studying, or writing, blog posting, doing videos, whatever the case is that if you do that, everything else is easy and it falls in line. And if you keep on doing that year over year, day after day, hour after hour, you're going to be pretty successful. Jab, jab, right hook. It was all right. I have to be 100% honest, never read this, but I did order it because it was so popular. Everything that I've read from this time on, I feel like has covered what Tim Ferriss has talked about in the 4-hour work week. James Altucher, he's a very interesting character. It was good. Don't really recommend it. Soaring Journal, essentially, this is the time that I started journaling. And Willpower Instinct by Kelly McGonigal. This was really the first time that I started looking at willpower, in that, obviously if you see from here, this is the first thing that you need to do every single day. Dare is obviously fear-based. Then you keep on going to Willpower Instinct, which is, we have a finite amount of willpower. She brings up a lot of studies. Highly recommend you check it out. I know that people too much rely on a crutch, that they are going to drain their willpower in the afternoon or not have the willpower to do things, and then they use it as an excuse to not do anything. That's what I don't like about the book. But I do like about the book is that you have to do the first thing that's most important every single morning, right when you get to work. It's really hard. Nobody wants to do it. But if you make that your daily habit, it's actually going to feel bad when you don't do it. All right? So highly recommend you check that out. Art of Manliness. So essentially, this started the time that I started looking into honor and grit and a couple other things that I said, okay, what is this? How does this make a difference in my life? And obviously, being a man, what does that actually mean? And during this time, 2013, I was actually transitioning into my own company. So in other words, I was going from Halstead Property to BPI, or at least thinking about it. So I said, okay, how am I going to be a good leader? What am I going to do? I had some really good ideas and mentors in my life up until that time. So it's all right. I don't recommend it. The map, I would say this is also when I started hearing about law of attraction and understanding it more. Obviously, Jack Canfield, that has played a role in it at this time. Again, I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at manifesting what I want. I also start saying that in my mind, I deserve more. This is the first time I'm actually saying that in my mind and believing it, because most of my life I was saying that I don't deserve more, or I'm happy with what I have. And I was being told that, but that's not an excuse. I actually believed it. So this is all right. Again, I always look at the success of the author, okay? There's also a difference, and what I'm talking about is you have a lot of people that talk about, say, willpower, and Kelly McGonigal, she talks about it. And this is an incredible book because of the amount of research behind it. But when I get to a book like, say, this, and it's all about manifesting, and it's more like intangible things, I want to know, are they manifesting? Are they happy? And, it's all right. Are you practicing what you preach? That's essentially what I want to do as well, is that I can't tell you guys to do something if I'm not doing it. I was that way 2 years ago, and I felt like kind of a fraud. I was like, I'm telling people to go to bed early and not eat sugar, yet I'm eating sugar and staying up late, or I'm drinking and blah, blah, blah. I'm getting incredible at right now, really good. Mel Robbins, probably one of the best TED Talks of all time, top 5. This and what's his name, Simon Sinek, have one of the, she's probably top 3 actually. Stop Saying You're Fine. This is an incredible book. Highly recommend you check this out. And essentially, it's people that are unhappy, but they are saying to themselves, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if I'm unhappy. And it's like, yeah, it kind of does, all right? Not only does it feel weird that you're denying that you're unhappy, but you're deplugging yourself from the reality that maybe you're overweight, maybe you don't have enough money, maybe you're in debt, maybe your relationship is shit. Whatever the case is, David Goggins nowadays talks about, he goes, be honest with yourself. Stop being, stop sugarcoating it. Yesterday I had a real hard look at the mirror and I started saying, dude, are you really where you want to be right now? Are you really plugging along at 100%? Right now you're at like 35%, 30% of your potential. And you got to have that conversation. A lot of people, especially, the map. It's a perfect example. The book says, well, if you affirm it, if you talk about it and you visualize it, that's good enough. Things will happen. It's like, no, you got to have that tough talk and say, dude, cut out the bullshit in your life. Start feeling the fear and do it anyway, which was one of the best books. Obviously, you saw that in part 1. Failing Forward, again, another great book. John Maxwell. This, obviously, you can see that there was a trend on not failing, but more on fear. And fear was really holding me back. That was probably the biggest thing. Fear of, say, going public on self-development, going public on these videos, going public on maybe insecurities or vulnerabilities. You saw the book before about manliness, and essentially what I was doing was masking that. I was putting on this front, I was putting on this thing, and it was more of like a jacket that was like, well, I'm fine. And as you could see from Mel Robbins' past book, is that you're saying you're fine, but you're really not. So you're putting on this jacket of comfortability when in fact it's taking that off and being exposed and saying, maybe I'm not fine. Maybe there is room for improvement. So Failing Forward is great. And to just wrap that up is that Ray Dalio actually came out with, and obviously Principles, he came out with another book called Debt Crisis. That's obviously about the financial services market, and that we're probably going to go through something, but it's understanding how debt and markets materialize. And what he says in Failing Forward, or I'm sorry, this is what Ray Dalio says. Ray Dalio says is that you succeed or you learn. There is no failure. So a lot of people, they put, I was looking at Drew Henson. Drew Henson was one of the biggest flops in the NFL. He was a 2-sport just phenom. He was playing baseball. He was drafted by, I think, Chicago. He was also drafted by the Cowboys in football. So a 2-sport major league athlete. He started in both, then he moved into football. He had his opportunity during, I think, Thanksgiving or something like that, and he threw 2 or 3 picks, and then they just interviewed him, not recently, but at the time, it was like 2010, and he's had a really bad 7 or 8 years of drugs, of medications. I think he got addicted to, maybe drinking, I don't know. But at the time, he kept on saying, I have my window of opportunity, it's really short and everything else. And I'm thinking, everyone has their window of opportunity. And a lot of them, here's an example, is that Peyton Manning had his window of opportunity. Unfortunately, guess what he did? Threw 20 interceptions his first season. But what happened was he learned from his mistakes. Okay, and he continued obviously to have a Hall of Fame career. Drew Henson had his opportunity, threw 2 interceptions, and then was benched and then just gave up. And the difference was that he didn't learn and he called himself a failure. Okay, those are 2 things that it took me a while to internalize. That is that you fail, but you're not a failure. It's easy to say, but what is that internal dialogue when things go wrong? This is probably one of the best books that nobody's talking about. Go for No. Highly recommend you guys check that out. And it's a very short fable. Talks about just failing a lot, failing big, and going for no. So going for no means that you go, so the best way to characterize it is you're as enthusiastic as Jean-Paul Jaurier, the billionaire, whatever. Essentially, you are as enthusiastic on door 100 as you are on door 1. when you're asking for business. And essentially he says, and this is everything to do with it, is 99 no's, but that one yes. And that one yes could be big. So essentially, like him and in the book, you go for no because you understand that you have to go through a certain amount of no's to get to a yes. Most people say, I'm trying to get to a yes. They're trying to get through all the people that are not interested to get that one person. If you think that your product is for everyone, you're mistaken. If you think that your service or you yourself are perfect for everyone, then you're mistaken. And to be honest, you're not gonna have raving fans. So raving fans, essentially, they are very dialed in. Seth Godin talks about this a lot. Show your work, pretty good. Is all right, you know, fortune cookie principles. It's really, obviously it talks about your branding. A lot of things that I've actually talked about, not only in the later on, is how your brand is your personality, and your personality is an extension onto social media. So if you're very brazen on social media, then you're going to be very brazen as your brand, as who you are. And a lot of people are more brazen and more bold on social media than they are in real life. They'll leave comments about things you're like, whoa, okay, or they'll post something that's very personal, but they won't tell you in person. And they feel emboldened when they actually post something on social media or online, as opposed to telling someone in person. Yes, it's uncomfortable and they're shameful and things like that, but you have to understand is that's your brand. So you have to be conscious of your brand. Your brand is really an extension of your personality, and then your social media is an extension of your brand. So it's really personality to brand to social media. And it's good, it's all right. Obviously this is my first Grant Cardone kind of deal, and then I just got obsessed with Grant Cardone. I went down to Mexico and saw him speak. The trip was not good. This is obviously many years before he really started to blow up, but Sell or Be Sold was good. I highly recommend, and then I just went on a tear. Obviously Sell or Be Sold, if you're not first, you're last, 10X Rule. 10X Rule is probably one of the best books because I think he solidifies it. In Sell or Be Sold, and if you're not first, you're last, essentially what he's saying is that if you're not doing it, someone else will, number one. And number two is if you're not doing it, you're being sold. Okay, you are the one that is being sold on a bill of goods of comfortability. If you're not actually selling yourself about sales, if you're not actually selling your product, someone else is. So it's a combination of both, is that you have to sell yourself and you have to sell to other people. And if you're not doing it, someone else is. Okay, and if you're not selling yourself, someone else is selling how to be, how to act, how many calls to make, things like that. And then that's obviously followed up by the 10X Rule, which it's got to be mandatory for anyone because it really talks about taking massive action, which obviously the law of attraction they didn't really talk about. And essentially from there I said, okay, if I'm to take massive action, and this is a time when I was still trying to find myself in business, I can tell you that it was not easy. It was not easy taking 10X action, because you're essentially if you're going from 0 to 10, that's a big gap. Okay, it's like going from 0 to 10 pull-ups or 0 to 10 miles. Okay, this isn't going from 0 to 10 steps. This is a massive, just cataclysmic, just quantum leap in your life in whatever area you want to change. I like it along with the slight edge, which I talked about before. If you have the slight edge, knowing that if you just improve 1% every single day, just a little bit better, a little bit smarter, a little bit better, if you just remove things in your life, just 1%, you will reach this 10%. What Grant Cardone is talking about, which it's all right, I like the idea, so people at least have a really big goal and they feel that they're charging towards that, because one of the problems that a lot of people face nowadays is the spring is coming up, I go to the gym, I get my summer body, and then I relax in the fall. But what Grant is talking about is this is a lifestyle, okay? This isn't just a one-off. This isn't just making 10 times the amount of calls. This isn't about going to the gym 10 more times, okay? This is about becoming this person. And essentially what a lot of people do is that they make a certain amount of money, or they're in a relationship and then they're stable, and then they just maintain that. They just maintain this mediocre life, and then they're unhappy, and then they blame it on other things. It's like, no, dude, you have no goal in front of you. No, you have nothing to look forward to. For me, the reason that I'm going to the gym in the morning and going at night is that I have a monumental, really tough goal in front of me that I'm probably going to break down at. So I have to visualize not only succeeding in my Ironman, but I also have to visualize when shit goes wrong, when I'm really tired and I'm dehydrated and I'm cramping up and my legs don't want to go further. How am I going to handle that mentally? How am I going to handle that physically? I look back and I say, dude, you trained for this. Dude, you're meant for this. So I highly recommend the 10X Rule. This is actually one of the better books on leadership that I've ever read. Simon Sinek, I became obsessed with after this book because he really puts together logically and he makes sense in so many different facets of business and in life. So essentially, he's not selling you on a 10-week course. He's not selling you on anything. He's literally doing the research. And you could see how passionate he is about this. So his whole concept is just being people going to work loving what they do, okay? And the reason being is that he was extremely unhappy at his old job, and he said, why am I unhappy? Because he's not doing what he loves. He's not passionate about it. And essentially, leaders eat last. This really flipped my mindset upside down because for me, and I actually did a video yesterday about this, is that I was expecting things of my colleagues. I was expecting things of my agents when I wasn't actually doing it. So number one was prospecting calls. I wanted my agents to prospect, but I wasn't actually prospecting. I wanted my people to get there, say at 8:30 when I was getting there at 8:20. Or I wanted them to eat well when I wasn't really eating well. Like I wasn't living up to the leadership, number one. Number two is leading from the front means that not only have you already done it, or you are doing it with them, so prospecting calls, eating healthy, whatever the case is that you're also accountable for yourself and for them at the same time, where if they screw up, it's not them, it's you. You have to find out a different motivation, a different system for them to try. It's all up to you, always, at any time. You are the leader. They're looking forward to you. This is as a parent, this is as a manager, this is a CEO, this is an influencer, it doesn't matter. Brian Tracy, again, Advanced Selling Strategies. We're going to end it on this. Brian Tracy is he's just a phenomenal person because he came from zero to hero. You know, I'm not saying like he was homeless and into drugs and everything like that, but he had a very good base, a foundation of growth. And then this is a perfect example of someone that every single day just got 1% better. I think he was one of those Grant Cardone style hard selling, kind of guys in the 70s and the 80s when he was in real estate and everything else, and then obviously transitioned into business. But his books, his ideas, his courses are fantastic because they are advanced. A lot of people, they have the basics, like I was talking about. You got to prospect, then you got to meet with them, then you got to close. We understand that, but within that, how do you actually judge that? Brian Tracy talks about it. He goes, it's all about finding out their needs and their wants through questions. Then when they respond this way, are you talking too much? Did they give you something that they're a little uncomfortable about? It's like, you got to be aware of that, but you have to actually prove through your preparation that you can be present enough to see that they're not buying what you're selling, or what you're selling is maybe not right for them. So highly recommend that. We're going to be moving on after that. If you guys have any questions, obviously leave in the comments below. And if there's any books, so Digital Minimalism was essentially the book that I just picked up. Really looking forward to it. So let me know if you have any questions. Have an amazing day, as always.